Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Friedrich Nietzsche. You can say his name in so many different ways, as I mentioned it before, but Friedrich Nietzsche is writing from 1872 to 1895. He publishes a great corpus of work, and it's my contention, along with Dr. Woods at University of Dallas, that his primary work is Thus Spake Zarathustra. And in fact, that'll be a piece that we're going to be reading next week out of your reader. We'll be reading Beyond Good and Evil, and then we'll be reading Thus Spake Zarathustra, just a small portion of both of them on Monday. But I want to set him up for you a little bit, give you a little bit of his background. He is living in Germany at the time. He grew up in I believe a Lutheran home, and he does go crazy, go insane toward the end of his life. The man is brilliant. He's a brilliant philosopher, brilliant at understanding history. He's a classicist, which many German intellectuals at the time are classicists, but he's also kind of brutal on Christianity in general. So if you're going to go about reading Friedrich Nietzsche, I would recommend a couple of books. One is Reading Nietzsche by Solomon and Higgins. It's a compilation just brought together to help new readers to actually get at understanding Nietzsche. Check this out. So Nietzsche is oftentimes characterized in one major theme. Like, for example, he's just anti-Christian, or he's just talking about the Greek worldview, or he's just this or that. Check out this quote in the preface of this book. There is no Nietzschean Überhaupt. There's no single theme, and those that are most often promoted to fill this role, the Übermensch, the overman, the superman, the will to power, and eternal recurrence, do not bear even the slightest scholarly scrutiny. There are, of course, grand and personal concerns that permeate Nietzsche's work: the nature of morality, the pathetic motives of much moral and Christian thinking, the historical role of Socrates, the Greeks, and Jesus, but there is hardly a single theme or set of themes that tie the entire corpus together. So if you find yourself saying or thinking that he's just arguing one thing, just check yourself and know that he's a sharp thinker, and he knows what he's doing, and he probably has a little bit more going on than you think he does. And I think that'll be your experience reading the couple pieces that we do read this next week. The reason I mentioned that Zarathustra is his main work is because he claims it is his main work later on in his other works. So Birth of Tragedy and Human All Too Human are published before, and then what he would consider a preface to TSZ, Thus Spake Zarathustra, is Dawn and Gay Science. And then what we're going to be reading, he considers an epilogue, the Beyond Good and Evil, a good book and translator right here. Beyond Good and Evil and Genealogy of Morals are both considered by him to be an epilogue to this book. So if you want to go straight to what he claims is his main central work that contains his core ideas, it's Thus Spake Zarathustra. And don't kid yourself, this book is heavily polemical against the Christian tradition, and there's plenty of other themes in there as well. But just know that that's on the board. Now, the reason we're reading Nietzsche right now after Aquinas is because he's a nice author to put right up against one of the heavyweights, if you will, the heavyweight of the Christian tradition, Thomas Aquinas. And there's other heavyweights, but he's like the latest in the medieval tradition before you hit the moderns, and you hit Nietzsche, who's like right on the cusp of modernity and postmodernity. And so it's nice to all of a sudden coming out of Aquinas on eternal, natural, human, and divine law, and then you hit Nietzsche that just takes issue with every single thing essentially that Aquinas is positing. But what I want to do is say that the brothers Karamazov is by Dostoevsky is, in my opinion, a full rebuttal of everything that Nietzsche is arguing. And that's a pretty big statement, but what I mean by this is Nietzsche himself claims that when he picked up Dostoevsky, who's only his senior about 20 years, so Dostoevsky is older, Nietzsche is younger. Nietzsche picks up a work. They don't really know each other personally, but they're contemporaries, if you will. And Nietzsche picks up a work by Dostoevsky, and he says, finally, another person who understands human nature, except that he would hold his Christianity, Dostoevsky's Christianity, against him. So that should indicate to you a little bit as to how Nietzsche thinks about Christianity, but also thinks about human nature, and also recommends and recognizes the prowess, if you will, of Dostoevsky. And I kid you not, after reading the Brothers K and reading Nietzsche side by side, you essentially get opposing arguments, both brilliant insights into human nature, human history, modernity as well, etc. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. I know you've had some interaction with Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment, and some other ones in your time here at Founders, but just wanted to point that out to you. Finally, I can't recommend Cambridge Companions enough. They're sort of popular now, and a lot of people will argue that they're not the best as they used to be, but they're just really good starting points. Basically, a whole bunch of scholars, 12 to 20 scholars in each of these Cambridge Companions coming together and writing on various aspects of an author's work, and they do a nice job in this work as well. Nietzsche does go insane toward the end of his life, and I'll just tell you a brief little story on it. I know that I'm not getting it precisely correct, but the story is there, and you can take it or leave it, or go research it more if you want. But Nietzsche is known as an animal lover, if you will, sort of like a St. Francis of Assisi. He loves animals, and he's walking through town one day, and he sees a horse that's pulling a wagon. It's stuck in the mud, and the owner is beating the horse. And Nietzsche cannot handle it. I don't know how well Nietzsche is at this point, health-wise, but he can't handle it. He throws himself on the horse to shield the horse from the beating of its master. And people say at that point Nietzsche lost his mind, went insane. It's a curious thing because you also see this example in Dostoevsky's work as well. But it's just it's a good thing to recognize that Nietzsche is a human being, and that he's seriously wrestling with reality and philosophical inquiry, and he's very good at what he does, and so you really have to take him at his face value, and you have to wrestle with him. He's a master at what he does, even if he is continually slamming Christianity and, if you will, the Western and Christian tradition. Well, that's all I have for you today. Tomorrow, next week we'll get into Nietzsche, Nietzsche, Mill, and Hume, and we'll be reading them each day. Nietzsche's setup. Mill is a little bit back in time, but he's a utilitarian, and you're going to recognize some of his ideas in his work. And then Hume is obviously just the great skeptic, and he's brilliant at walking through human nature from an empirical standpoint. So there's the three. We'll be reading each of them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then doing an assignment on them on Thursday. Look forward to hopefully seeing you guys soon. Have a good weekend.